Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we'll be covering Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 12, Beyond Renunciation and Knowledge. Hare Krishna, please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki, Janant Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Please join us in Mangalacharana prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirye Shrotam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhatsatam Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashiki. Hare Krishna. Please join us in the recitation of the first few verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 12, Beyond Renunciation and Knowledge. Yes, so the Canto is Canto 11, Chapter 12, Beyond Renunciation and Knowledge, and from Chapter 6 through 29, in 11th Canto it's also known as UDDHAVA GITA. So these chapters together combined, and Uddhav is a pure devotee of Lord Shri Krishna, so he is giving these instructions to Uddhav. Please join us. And Pavitropana Ekadashi ki jai. I hope you are refraining from grains and beans today. And this is a very auspicious day, also known as Madhav Tithi. So we'll be also, continuing to engage in some austerities with the focus of staying close to Lord Shri Krishna, our affectionate Father. Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Narodhyanti Mam Yogo.
Narodhyanti Mam Yogo.
Na Sankhyaṁ Dharma Evacha.
Na Sankhyaṁ Dharma Evacha.
Na Swadhyayas Tapastyago.
Na Swadhyas Tapastyago.
Nishta Puttam Na Dakshina.
Neshtapurtam na dakshina.
Vartani Yagyaschandamsi.
Vratani yagaschandamsi.
Tethani Niyamayamaha.
Tirthani niyamayama.
Yata Varundhe Satsangaha.
Yatha varunde satsanga.
Sarva Sangapaho Himam.
Sarva sangapaho himam.
Please.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Narodhyati mam yogo.
Narodhyati Mam Yogo.
Na sankhyaṁ dharma evacha.
Na Sankhyaṁ Dharma Evacha.
Na swadhyas tapastyago.
Na Swadhyayas Tapastyago.
Neshtapurtam na dakshina.
Neshta Purtam Na Dakshina.
Vratani yagyasya chandamsi.
Vratani Yagyaschandamsi.
Vratani yagyasya chandamsi.
Vratani Yagyaschandamsi.
Tirthani niyamayama.
Tethani Niyamayamaha.
Yatha varunde satsanga.
Yatha Varundhe Satsangaha.
Sarva sangapaho himam.
Sarva Sangapaho Himam. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Uddhav, By associating with my pure devotees, one can destroy one's attachment for all objects of material sense gratification. Such purifying association brings me under the control of my devotees. One may perform the Ashtanga Yoga system, engage in philosophical analysis of the elements of material nature, practice non-violence and other ordinary principles of piety, chant the Vedas, perform penances, take to the renounced order of life, execute sacrificial performances and dig well, plant trees and perform other public welfare activities, give in charity, carry out severe vows, worship the demigods, chant confidential mantras, visit holy places, or accept major and minor disciplinary injunctions. But even by performing such activities, one does not bring me under his control. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today, in this chapter, we hear the glories of association of pure devotees, of Lord Shri Krishna. And just by their association, we are able to attain perfection in this very life. So this chapter reveals some amazing truth. And again, this is 11th Canto. So today we are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 12. Beyond renunciation and knowledge, this is part of Uddhava Gita also. Uddhava Gita is Canto 11, Chapter 6 through 29. They are also referred to as Uddhava Gita. And Uddhava is a pure devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. And he is inquiring, and Lord Shri Krishna wants him to take the message to Badrika Ashram for the satisfaction, to give pleasure to the sages, the great sages at Badrika Ashram, especially who? The twin brothers. Who are those? Nar, Nara and Rishi. So, the very verse that we just covered reveals some amazing truths. So let's look at each of these aspects, but before we look at it, again, we have to understand the very essence why Lord Shri Krishna is saying that he is under the control of his pure devotees. How he is easily won over, right? He is easily, so much in reciprocation with his loving devotees that because, Lord Krishna resides in Vrindavan, Acharya's reveal. And he never steps out of Vrindavan. Now somebody could say, wait a minute, then who is the personality at Dwarka? So Lord Krishna, unlike you and me, he can expand unlimitedly, right? And so he expands, and many other Swamsha and Vibhinamsha. So Swamshas are Vishnu Tattvas, his incarnations, who are all transcendental to the three modes of material nature, and Vibhinamshas are us, the living entities, who can be conditioned, so who can fall prey to the conditioning, which is our own bewilderment. When we get the material body, we get conditioned under the influence of the material energy. So she's only, casting her influence, just like when there is cloud and people say the sun is not there, the sky is cloudy, the sun hasn't come. Basically what they're referring is that the cloud is covering our vision to the sun, right? There cannot be any cloud on the sun. So we have to understand from that perspective that how Lord Krishna is revealing that he is fully under the control of his devotees because he is reciprocating so much so that he doesn't want to leave Vrindavan. He is constantly engaged in the loving pastimes. And in this chapter, Lord Krishna says that the residents of Vrindavan, they were suffering from severe and extreme mental distress when Akrura came and took him away. So it is not that Lord Krishna left Vrindavan. When at the boundary of Vrindavan, it was Vasudev and Sankarshan. They continued forward, while Lord Krishna and Balaram, they stayed back in Vrindavan. They would never. So Lord Krishna never steps out of Vrindavan. And since all the Vishnu Tattvas are said to be non-different, because, and Srila Prabhupada gave this very nice example from the Shastras, that you have one candle which is originally lighted candle, and you have many other candles exactly like this candle. And if you use this candle to light other candles, then those candles have the same potency as this original candle. So when we look at all the Purushavatars, the Vishnus, and especially the three Purushavatars, Karna Dakshayi Vishnu, who is in the Karan ocean. So again, that is causal ocean. Then we have Padmanav Vishnu, also referred to as in the Garbhodak ocean, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And then we have Shirodakshayi Vishnu in Shir Sagar, the ocean of milk. So they are all expansions of Lord Shri Krishna. And how do we differentiate that? They have different pastimes, different activities, and they sometimes even the paraphernalia is arranged differently. So that's how they are distinguished. Yet at the same time, they are considered non-different. So just like we go to work, Srila Prabhupada made it so easy for us to understand. These scriptures were very difficult to understand because they were in Sanskrit, and we in Kali age don't have so much intelligence. And even a child can read a simple English and such a beautifully flowing English, so that they can constantly they are able to get the meaning, get into the depths of the meaning of the Shastras, the true essence. That is the importance. So it's not that Srila Prabhupada was making it easy that we read this and become scholars. Rather, his purpose was that we read this to understand why are we here, what is the purpose of this life, why are we suffering, why is there so much anxiety in this world, why is this COVID-19 happening, and there is always calamities happening one after another, and how can we stay stable, how can we stay happy at such times, how can we, being confined in our house, in our various limited domains, realize that this is something that is passing. Right? Shitoshan sukha dukkha agama paino anityas. So these, just like the summer season, winter season, they come and go. Similarly, happiness and distress, they come and go. Yet at the same time, Lord Krishna reveals in this chapter that how we can attain perfection and how we can stay stable and eternally happy with the right mindset. So we have to put the right glasses on. We cannot be using the perception given by our imperfect senses and trying to understand one who is unlimited with our limited senses. And Lord Krishna in the very first verse is glorifying his devotees, right? So, and Rupa Goswami in Updeshamitra, Nectar of Instruction was the English translation of Updeshamitra. He's revealing the various, especially the 6 principles that enhance our devotional service. Utsaha nishaya dhairya tat karma pravartanat sangatyaga sato vritte sadbhir bhakti prasiddhiti. Utsahan, with enthusiasm, with lot of energy, right? And nishayat, with determination, dhairyat, with patience. Tat karma pravartanat, follow the 9 process of devotional service. Sangatyagat, so this is asat sangatyag, people who engage in gossip and they do not engage in glorifying Lord Shri Krishna. And in the previous chapter we heard as how a person who is attracted to the flowery language of Vedas, where they are looking for fruitive returns, to be elevated to heavenly planets,
not really glorifying Lord Shri Krishna, they are constantly miserable. So the most miserable people are those who are not able to glorify Lord Shri Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, there was a ad in the paper, so he, provided that reference that the wife is telling her husband, chant, 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 and the husband is saying, can't, can't, can't. So it is so easy, just, calling out to the Lordship with love, with humility, with gratitude. We can call out to Him. And Srila Prabhupada said that this is transcendental sound vibration. And it's like, we should call out to the Lordship just like a child calls out to its mother. With that mood we should call out. And this will invoke this mercy, just like for a child when calls out to the mother. Mother knows when the child is imitating and the child is sincere. So when the mother hears a sincere call of the child, she forgets everything and runs to take care of the child. So Lord Krishna, He may be very busy, yet at the same time, He is never busy when it comes to reciprocate and to respond to the call of His devotees. So we should just simply raise our hands and call out, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And hope that Lord will bestow His mercy. Yet at the same time, some people do feel that we are hoping against hope. But yes, there is hope in this life. And right now from this chapter, there is a lot of hope that is being revealed to us. And to be able to understand that how somebody as a devotee can win over Lord, right? While so many other austerities, sacrifices, charities will not be able to attain the same result. While in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that one should not give up sacrifice, charity and austerity. Penances is another word being used with austerity. Sometimes people get confused. So penances is when you have done something wrong, to overcome the effect of that, you follow the Vedas and the scriptures to perform some penances. It's called prayashchitta. So prayashchitta is different. Austerity is to live an austere life, right? Wake up 3:30 a.m. in the morning, attend Mangalarti at 4:30 a.m., chant your 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles, no meat eating, including no fish, no eggs, and no intoxication, including no tea, coffee, etc. And also in no meat eating, it also is like, we should not eat onion, garlic, because they have tamasic effect. And no illicit sex, so sex is regulated within the family life or the progeny, to beget children. And also there is a proper samskar that need to be followed. Garbhadhan samskar rituals need to be followed with proper focus, with proper mindset. And prasadam, yes. And also no gambling, because that is, we are lying to ourselves, right? And we are taking a big chance. So do not gamble with your life and try to run after various processes for name, fame and glories. So when Lord Krishna is saying, he is basically identifying this chapter, and Srila Jiva Goswami gives an extensive commentary where he is identifying that these 2 verses and the verses that follow enlighten us to some amazing realizations, some amazing facts, as how just by taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and associating with the devotees and serving them, we can attain perfection in this very life. So before I go into various aspects that do not let us get close to God, it is very important for us to understand why is it that a devotee is able to win over Lord Shri Krishna? How is it that the devotee is able to bring Lord who is unlimited in his control? Just like Yashoda Mai, she was able to bound Lord Shri Krishna, and Lord Krishna from that time onward is glorified as Damodar, right? Dam is rope, Udar is stomach. So, tying of the stomach of Lord Shri Krishna with rope. So how can unlimited can be born with limited, and the secret is because of the unlimited love a devotee has. So that is the true essence. So here, to be able to also understand this, there is a very simple story where there were one father and one son, father and son, and they were very rich. Father had many industries. And he had big estate homes, palatial buildings, and so forth. And he had the father and son together since they had no one else. The mother had already left at the early age, when the kid was young. They were art collectors. So they would go out and collect arts, Picasso's paintings, Michelangelo's, and so many others. And which also reminds me of Leonardo da Vinci. Again, he was an amazing painter. And how amazing a painter, very few people know about this. Leonardo da Vinci, when he was alive, he was not a very rich person, right? So I'm just identifying how some amazing talent has been given to some people. And then we'll come back to this story of father and son. So he did not even have enough to afford proper meal. Yet once he goes to an inn, restaurant. In old times, they used to be called inns. And he goes there, and suddenly what overcomes him, he decides to order all kind of amazing dishes. So now today is Ekadashi. Don't get distracted. This is just the story perspective, right? And also understand that sometimes materialists, they get these amazing skills, and Lord Krishna says, Parusham Rishu, so I am the ability in man. So how amazing abilities can be utilized. But, with that material consciousness, you also have to look at it from that perspective. And afterwards, after he has eaten, so, the waiter, he's a bit surprised that this person doesn't dress very opulently, but he is, ordering one great dish after another. Will he be okay? And at the end, the waiter is amazed to see that while the cost was only 2 silver coins, he had put 4 gold coins, on the tray. And so the waiter really, bows down to him, smiles, treats him very nicely, and sees him off to the gate. And Leonardo da Vinci, he moves on. So now the waiter takes the tray to the manager, right, to the owner of the inn. And when the owner picks it up, he sees that actually those were the coins drawn on a piece of paper. So he was such an amazing artist that he drew it on a piece of paper, and they looked just like real gold coins from a distance. And they were both shocked that this artist, he is such an amazing artist. Yet at the same time, their mentality was they were cheated. So, yes, sometimes when people who are given intelligence, amazing intelligence, they may misuse that intelligence and cheat people also. Not that that was the intention. Leonardo da Vinci was just very hungry and he wanted to have a good meal. And because of the greed of some people, again, he's not able to, and so many people in this world today are not able to get the proper meal. So that's also another factor. And COVID-19 even made it very difficult. And there is a very nice verse in Katha Upanishad, where it is said that Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman. Srila Prabhupada referred to it again and again many times. And the meaning is that one living force is providing and supplying the necessities of many living entities. And so, even though, there is one conscious, supreme conscious, Lord Shri Krishna, and through him, through his expanding in Vibhinamsha, so many living entities are able to exist. So again, that is Lord's mercy, because he wants to enjoy, have the loving exchange, which is actually a 75 or more years research from Harvard Business, where they have been doing this, what is the secret of happiness? And now they have realized the secret of happiness is, happiness actually comes from relationship and from loving relationship. If we have loving relationship with each other, that's how it comes. So here, coming back to this story where the father and son, very rich, have estate homes, own many amazing rare paintings. And so it just so happened that at that time in America, people were getting drafted for Vietnam War. And it just so happened that the son gets drafted. And being very patronizing, citizens of America, they decide that son should go. So son, he takes his blessings from, and father blesses him, with all success, and the son goes off to the war. And it just so happens that after some time, father comes to know that his son has died, right? The soldiers, they normally come, some of the soldiers, and they informed. So the butler had called him, and then he had gone to the door, and then they had informed him that his son had died while fighting. So now he was the only relative this rich man had. And now hearing that his son is dead, he was heartbroken. So that's an unfortunate state where in today's time sometimes people see that even the son who's supposed to be carrying the father on his shoulder at the last, when father departs for the next destination, then the body is to be carried, but sometimes the father has to carry. So in this particular case, the father, even though he doesn't see the body of his son, he's carrying that pain in his heart. And so he stops going to work, he stops engaging, socially, his social life finishes, and he's just staying at home, reading, various books that, his son used to study in school, seeing the various pictures and, remembering all the loving times he had with his son. One day it just so happened that there's a knock at the door. So the butler goes and he opens the door. So what does he see? He sees that there is a young soldier, almost the same age as the son of this rich man. And he has, he only has one leg, so he has support. And he is holding something. And he says that actually the son, he was my very good friend. So this young soldier says that this rich man's son and he became friends when they were in the army, and he has come to meet the father because, he wants to show his gratitude towards his son and also wants to share his condolences. So butler goes. Normally he would not go, but this is a special occasion. So now the butler is very intelligent. He goes and informs his master that yes, there is a soldier who happened to be a very good friend. He had become, he befriended your son and he wants to share something. So the father immediately comes, in whatever state he was, he just comes immediately. He welcomes this young man and he asks the butler to get some snacks and something to eat. So because when we have some guests, we should make sure that we offer them something, some water at least, along with some, prasad. So now the young boy, the young man, he is in this army uniform and he says that actually we were both in the same battalion and we were fighting. There was actually a bullet coming to hit me, but your son pushed me away. However, when he was pushing me, he came in the way and the bullet shot him and he died. When the father hears this, of course, the tears start flowing, remembering that his son not just saved someone, but sacrificed his life saving someone. And so this young man, the young soldier says that actually, he told me that you have amazing collections of paintings and this is something, you and your son enjoyed. So I'm not that good of a painter, but I drew this painting. And he brings out this, what he was carrying was actually a canvas painting. So he gives it to the father and father opens up this painting. What does he see? The young soldier is saying that this is the scene I'm depicting as what happened on the battlefield. And he's showing that how his son is pushing this soldier away from the path of this bullet that comes and actually hits on his chest instead. So the father looks at it. It was not very well drawn. The color combinations, the strokes, they were not as expert as you would see in some of the great paintings. But the father understood the emotion and he, thanked this soldier for presenting this and sharing this particular incident as how his son, was so brave on the battlefield. And after some time, the young man leaves, and the father, he takes this painting and puts it in his bedroom. So as he was lying down, he could see the painting on the opposite wall. And it just so happens that now he was feeling, he was old and he was not having any social, interactions. He wasn't going out, and he would generally, sleep most of the time, and sometimes, see the pictures. And so in due course of time, he dies. And now, as soon as people came to know that this great person has died, he has such a great, collection of paintings. He's got estate homes, and he's got these palatial buildings, and so many industries and so forth. They all come for the auction. So auction has been held, is being held, and many people come for this at this auction. And the auctioneer, he starts. So everyone is thinking, hey, that Michelangelo's painting, the sculpture is there, and Vinci's painting is there, and so many amazing paintings are there. So they are all waiting. However, the auctioneer, he says, as per the will, we have to start with this painting, and he brings up that painting from that the soldier had given to the old man. And everyone looks at it. It doesn't look very attractive painting. The color combination is off, the strokes are off. But then, the auctioneer says, just bear with me, this is, as per the will, we are just following. So everyone is hoping that someone will buy the painting. So the auction starts, and no one is buying this painting. So at that time, the butler sees everyone's reaction. So he says, okay, I'll buy this painting. For $10, I'll buy it. And everyone is just relieved that, okay, finally, we can start having the real auction go on. This thing was just something as a hurdle. And at that time, auctioneer says, okay, sold. The butler comes, pays $10, signs off, gets the painting. And at that time, auctioneer, he closes the portfolio. Everyone is surprised. He's like, what do you mean? We have all these paintings, his industries are there, and all these amazing things are there. He says, actually, as per the will, whoever gets this painting gets everything. So this is what Lord Krishna is in essence revealing in this chapter. That one who has understood how to love him and is just absorbed in this loving attitude, is constantly immersed in this ocean of love, and wants to serve Lord Krishna with love, with affection, and constantly absorbed in his name form activities pastime, attains everything. Lord Krishna is very much willing to share everything that he has with us. Yet at the same time, people get bewildered, and they find, some of the paths, like the path of renunciation, path of acquiring knowledge. And when these various paths do not invoke love of Godhead in our heart, then they are shameva hi kevalam. They are just useless labor. Now let's look at some of the aspects that are being identified. So one may perform Ashtanga Yoga system. Ashtanga Yoga system is like the meditation, the pranayam, pratyahara. So there is yam, niyam, pranayam, pratyahara, the breathing exercises. Pratyahara is controlling the senses from interacting with the sense objects, and all the way to samadhi. Samadhi is meditation. And when you are remembering Lord Krishna's name from activities, pastimes, you are performing Smara Lila, which is the topmost meditation. So when somebody is performing this Ashtanga Yoga, it's like building up the muscles. They are trying to develop these muscles so that they can swim across this ocean of nascence, this material ocean. While devotees, we don't worry so much about building these muscles, rather we just take shelter of Lord Shri Krishna. And Lord Krishna says, Tesham aham samuddhata mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha maya veshata chetasam. So one who is my devotee, I will deliver him from this material world. Mrityu sansara sagarat. So it's this ocean of mrityu sansara, this place where there is constant death is there and miseries are there. So why should we perform Ashtanga Yoga system if that is the purpose? However, devotees do perform some level of yoga system. That is because we have received this human form of body. It is our responsibility to take care of this body, keep it clean, keep it healthy. So when we are performing it, to be able to serve Lord Krishna favorably, with love, with gratitude. We want to make sure that the gift that He has given us is also well taken care of, yet not spend our time. Rather, engage in glorifying Lord Krishna. And sing His glories. Can you get me the specific words, because I am not able to recall it. Hare Krishna. And singing glories of Lord Shri Krishna is so easy. Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan Kishi Ghat Vanshi Vata Dwadash Kanan Sabalila Koilo Shinanda Nandan Shinanda Yashoda Jaya Jaya Gopagan Shidamadi Jaya Jaya Dhenu Vatsagan Jaya Vrishabhanu Jaya Kirtida Sundari Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Abhira Nagari Jaya Jaya Gopishwara Jaya Radha Sham. Hare Krishna. So it is so easy, and when we sing Lord's glories, automatically we are singing about Lord's loving devotees, their pastimes as well, because Lord's glories are constantly in this interaction as how He is having this loving exchange. And iti drik swalila bhiranandu kunde. In Damodar Ashka we sing that Lord is immersing this residents of Vrindavan in this, ocean of bliss. And you can imagine, so they are being constantly immersed in the waves of this loving exchange with Lord Shri Krishna. So that supreme, pleasure, that transcendental bliss is not possible when someone is saying that, okay, on my strength I will be able to do it. What can we do? We are just, minute, while He is unlimited living entities. And we have limited senses, and trying to build our senses and control our mind through and our senses to not interacting with the sense objects does not result in favorable, advancement spiritually. Engaging in philosophical analysis is given as well as, of the elements of material nature. So this is analytical study of the material nature. Like, okay, in this material universe, how the universe came into existence, how it was created by Lord Shri Krishna, the 24 elements, how they come, how when annihilated, they are all, further taken in, just like the cobweb is being created by a spider, and then also it is finally taken in by the spider. So similarly, all those aspects are there. But that is about material nature. That has nothing to do with the spiritual nature. Yes, it's good to know, but why waste time when we can directly remember Lord Shri Krishna's name, form, activities, pastimes? And people who are practicing non-violence, they may practice non-violence, but if it does not invoke love of Godhead, so of course it's good to be pious. Yet at the same time, it is very interesting that people, sometimes they are practicing non-violence with the wrong mindset. They are trying to save the coat of a person instead of saving the person, right? When someone is drowning. So it is very important for us to take care of the soul in each of the bodies. And that's why devotees, they are also referred to as, Vaishnavas are referred to as Pardukha Dukhi, because they become unhappy seeing others in distress. And while there is a very interesting aspect, I met this person. He was part of this social movement on animal cruelty. And when I was conversing with him, I realized, because again we have happened to meet at work, and he was ordering non-veg, and I was a bit surprised that how could he be supporting animal cruelty while himself, eating non-veg. So that was surprising and shocking to me, and he was completely, this very sense was completely oblivious to him. To him, what he was performing was normal routine. He was not even aware. So just like a fish swimming in the water doesn't know that water is all around, we don't pay attention to the air, that the air is all around us. Sometimes people, because of the imperfect senses, they are so deluded that they don't realize the activities they are engaged in. And everything looks just normal to them. And also, ordinary principles of piety. And one of the, like major and minor. And cleanliness, even though we say cleanliness is next to godliness, in the previous chapter I was surprised to hear as how like cleanliness, especially from the external perspective, is a minor. Rather, cleanliness, we need to make sure that our heart is clean. Internal cleanliness is more stress. And the simple process of cleaning our heart is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And even chanting out, chanting of the holy name has to be done with focus, with attentiveness. There is a very nice saying, that doha that we used to read when we were kids. Mala firat jug gaya, gaya na man ka pher, kar ka man ka dari de, man ka pher. Meaning is, mala firat jug bhaya. By, chanting on the beats, decades have passed. Gaya na man ka pher. But that covetousness, that cheating propensity of the heart has not gone away. Kar ka man ka dari de. So it's saying that give up the holding of this manaka. Manaka is the bead. Rather, manaka fe, the bead of your heart, churn your heart. So that just like, you churn yogurt into butter. Similarly, manaka fe. So your mind has to chant properly. So that's the true essence comes when we are not just chanting with our tongue. Of course, chanting of the tongue is recommended by the Shastras, but more important than chanting of the tongue is chanting of the mind, chanting of churning of our heart in the process. So our mind has to attentively engage in this chanting process, and that is thousands of times more effective when we are attentively hearing the chanting of the holy name. Our mind is constantly calling out to the Lordship, and our heart is getting cleaned, so that in the mirror of our heart we can see ourselves. And what do we see as living entities? Jivera Sarupoya Krishna Nityadas. So we can only be happy when we are serving Lord Shri Krishna, because we are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna, which also provide another insight that we are servants by nature. We are constantly serving someone. Sometimes even when seeking happiness, we think that if I serve this important person, I will get some benefit, I will get some favorism will be there. The person will be favorably disposed, and I'll get something that I'm looking for. And that's a normal materialistic thinking, because of our senses are imperfect. Instead of that, we should serve the topmost person. So this person, there was this one man, he had this curiosity. He was a very able person, and he wanted to serve someone very important. So he saw that the landlord in the village is the most important person. So he went to the landlord. He says, I would like to serve you, be your servant. So landlord saw that he is a very capable person, very sincere, and he's very, straightforward. So he hires the man. He says, okay, you serve me. So now one day, somebody comes along with some soldiers, and he sees that the landlord is greeting this person very nicely, giving him wealth and, properly, giving him all respect. So he says, who is this person? So the landlord says, he's a minister, of the king. So he's like, is he above you? He's like, yes, he's much above me. He actually serves, he goes not just to me, but he goes to different landlords and everybody respects him very much. So the young man says, could you please ask him if I can be his servant? So the landlord knew that this young man is very sincere. So he says, sure, why not? He goes to the general and says, this young man is very capable. He has been serving me very nicely, and he would like to serve you, moving forward. Please, consider this request. On his behalf, I'm making this request. The general says, okay, I will let him be my servant. So now this young man joins this group and he's serving this general. But as soon as the general collects all this wealth from different taxes from different landlords, he goes to the king and he pays obeisances to the king and presents everything to the king, and on top of that he is glorifying the king. So now the young man is a bit surprised that he had been with months going from village to village with this general and everyone is respecting him. Suddenly this general is respecting the king. And so he asks the general, why are you respecting this personality, this king? He says, because he's my lord and he's much about. So he's like, okay, now the young man just says that, please, can I be his servant? General saw that he had been serving very nicely and he's very sincere at heart, so he says, why not? He makes his plea on his behalf to the king and he says, please allow him to be your servant. And the king is happy hearing that he's a very sincere person, so he says, yes, why not? You join us and you serve me. So young man is serving the king, and one day it just so happened that the king, he comes to know that there is a great sage who has come to visit and he's staying in one of the forests outside his kingdom. So he goes with his close associates and he takes this servant also with him. Goes to meet the sage, and the first thing, as soon as the king sees the sage, he gets down from his chariot and pays Dandvat Pranam, obeisances. Dand is like a stick, Vat means like a stick, like a. So just he pays obeisances and he's glorifying and asking for blessings. The young man is really surprised as how the king is treating this sage who doesn't seem to be so opulent with so much awe and reverence. So as they were returning, the young man asked the king about this sage, that how, and the king says, of course, he is an amazing personality, he blesses, he is a transcendentalist. So now again young man says, could you please request him if I can be his servant? So now the young man wants this, and then when he comes to the sage, he says that you're constantly meditating and so forth. So I'm paraphrasing some of the aspect. So the sage reveals to him that actually, he is also always worshipping, he was always meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So now the young man says, can I serve him? So again the sage sees his pure heart and he says, why don't you go to this temple? Gives him the direction and he says, go to the temple and serve the deities there, because deities are not different from the Lordship. So the young man is very happy. He goes to the temple, but then he had been traveling all day. So by it was already night when he reached the temple, and it was the winter months. So, sun sets early during winter time. So the gates were closed and he could not get inside the temple. So he just slept outside the temple. And it was cold. So it just so happened that the deities, they realized that, this young man with pure heart, he has come, and so, of course, the gates are closed and he is sleeping outside. Next morning, what people say is, as they were crossing, that this man who's sleeping has the deity's chadar on him. So they think that he is a thief, he's stealing deity's paraphernalia. And they come and they, catch hold of this man, they're about to beat him. At that time, the pujaris come and they say, what's this commotion all about? And then they realize that, this young man, he was wearing deity's chadar. And at that time they say, how could this be? Because the gates are locked. How could he have gotten inside, how could he access the deities and get the chadar? So it must be the deities who came and gave his chadar to this young man. And the young man, tells them how he happened to be there. So, how he wanted to serve the most important person in this world. And simply this mood of serving, because we are servant by nature. He was able to get supreme bliss, the supreme destination, the love of Godhead, because his only desire was to serve the most important person. He didn't have to read Shastras, he didn't have to, go around, perform heavy meditation, heavy austerities, perform all kind of, humanitarian work and so forth. He had this one desire. So it's very important for us to know what kind of desire do we hold in our heart, because that will determine our destination. And just like in this story, the young man was able to start serving the deities, became a pujari, and at the end of his life attained the love of Godhead, which is the goal of life. And he was always relieved of any miseries. So yes, there will be miseries in this world, yet at the same time, we would not have to suffer those miseries. We can become transcendental to those miseries, even in the time of COVID-19. We are hearing about so many devotees who have come up with, positive in COVID-19 times. Yet at the same time, even though their body may be leaving their, not cooperating with them, but they are still meditating on Lordship, and even lying down, they are constantly giving, preaching to the world, to take to the devotional service. And we all know that a person who is in such situation cannot be lying, right? That's the truth. We know that. So please take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And when we chant, we should chant attentively and with love, calling out like a child cries out for its mother, with that mood that, oh my dear Lord, I have no other shelter but you. You are my all in all, and you can help me deliver from this material consciousness, and take me as an atom and put me on your lotus feet, so that I can constantly serve you with love, with gratitude. Now Lord Krishna, he is revealing some amazing aspects in the next two verses. So again, chanting the Vedas. Sometimes people, they do the chanting of Vedas just to show how great they are, the great chanters they are, how much control they have on their tongue. And people who have had a lot of practice from childhood, they become very good orators, right? So that's a great quality. But then you can still be silent and mourn, but chanting the glories of Lord Shri Krishna. So not chanting the Vedas, especially the areas which is Karmakand, right? Talks about how to perform fruitive rituals to attain something, to enjoy this life, and to remove the sinful effects of past sins. And people who perform penances, they're performing sometimes great austerities and penances, and even people who take to the renounced order of life. Now this point comes in. Renunciation, right? Vairagya is also something when somebody takes to renouncing the life and the various objects, sense objects, we have to understand what is the meaning behind it. Sometimes there is Phalgu Vairagya, not really understanding that even this material energy is an expansion of Lord's different potencies. So she is also an energy of Lord Shri Krishna, external potency of Lord Shri Krishna. So the purpose of all energies is to serve the energetic. And so, thank you. It is very important for us to look from that perspective, that the purpose, in the beginning stage in devotional service, people say, oh, this is material energy, dukhalayama shashvatam. But as we advance, we realize that actually this material energy is to be used in Krishna's service. So all our senses that we get, right? The 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the 5 working senses, and the mind is also said to be, the topmost. So these 11 of them should be constantly engaged in Lord Shri Krishna's service. And then they will be purified. Otherwise, they will be our enemies and they will be like snakes biting us. So we have to understand the purpose and take to it, seriously. So not go for name, fame and glories, being great orators and chant Vedas and get the glories of mundane people, the fallen soldiers of this world, trying to glorify that, you are such a great orator, then just looking for name, fame and glories. That's not the purpose. So the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam is to attain the love of Godhead, because Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Lord Shri Krishna. So we are directly interacting with Lord Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada always said that when you do deity worship, when you do read Srimad Bhagavatam, when you study Srimad Bhagavatam, when we chant the holy name, we should try to be sincere at our heart, and our effort will be rewarded accordingly, because Lord, He understands, He is Bhav Grahi Janadana. He knows what is going on in our heart. And sometimes we jokingly say that when we, somebody comes and when we put some, in the patra, that dana patra, as some Lakshmi, right, some currency. At that time, Lord Krishna, He is not saying what we are taking out from our wallet and putting it there. He is saying what we keep in the wallet and puts back in our pocket. Because everything belongs to Lord Krishna. Sometimes devotees jokingly say, but it's the real essence is, the real message is that Lord Krishna is Bhav Gahi Janadana. He knows the feeling in our heart. And so we have to really show our reciprocation. Means again, Lord reciprocates to our feelings. So we have to be sincere in our feeling. We have to understand Vasudeva Sarvamati, Sa Mahatma Sudhulabha. So again, if we think that we are great souls, then we must know that Lord Vasudeva is Sarvamati. He is all in all. He is the cause of all causes. Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has the body of eternity, knowledge and bliss. He is the cause of all causes. And we should just serve, such an affectionate Father. And it is for our own purification. It's not that He is waiting for us. He is Atmaram. He is completely satisfied in Himself. And He has Lakshmi Sahastashat Sabbrahma Sevya Manam. And hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis, goddesses of fortunes, are serving Him with affection, with devotion, just like the gopis. They are also referred to as Lakshmis. And so performing penances or even renouncing life, this reminds me of an incident when Srila Prabhupada one day, he was typing on his typewriter, and he would sometimes use just the two fingers. And if you pay attention today, the fastest typewriter in the world types with his two index fingers. So Srila Prabhupada once, he was just typing, and Professor Howard, he was sitting there, a young, professor, and at that time, Achyutanand Maharaj, at that time, he was not initiated. He entered Srila Prabhupada because he had some sincere inquiries to make. At that time, he heard, after paying obeisance of Achyutanand Maharaj, His Holiness Achyutanand Maharaj, he came and sat near Professor Howard, and Professor Howard later on was also initiated. He said that, I'm renouncing the word. So when Professor Howard said, I'm renouncing the word, Srila Prabhupada stopped, looked at him, smiled, and then he said, you don't own the world. How would you renounce it? So sometimes, because we are bewildered, we don't know what's what. So sometimes such statements are made. But it was great revelation. So Professor Howard, he understood the purport of what Srila Prabhupada is saying. He smiled as well, paid obeisances, and took permission to leave. And smilingly, he understood exactly what Srila Prabhupada is saying. So, anasaktasya vishayam yatharam upayunjita nirbandha krishna sambandhe yukta vairagya muchyate. Right? So, we have to use everything. We have to understand that everything is to be used in Lord Krishna's service. And a pure devotee of Paramahamsa knows how we have to use everything. So, that's why association of a devotee is very important. Devotee association is paramount for our benefit, because in devotee association we can understand how Lord Krishna can be served. Anukulena Krishna Anushilenam. The way Lord Krishna desires, right? Following the footsteps of previous acharyas, we can serve Him and please Him. As His sons and daughters, we can serve Him with the right attitude. And so even carrying out severe vows, doing charity, just for name, fame and glories, is not going to benefit. And people open so many hospitals and so many, anathalaya. Of course, they are doing pious activities, so they will have good reactions. But then those reactions will also bind them into the cycle of birth and death. While if you do the same activities from Krishna consciousness perspective, then there is no reaction, right? So you don't have to take birth again. Rather, you are able to please Lord Shri Krishna because he sees that you are helping your other brothers and sisters. You are not looking for name, fame and glories, and that is an important aspect. Even the worship of demigods and chanting of confidential mantras does not control Lord Shri Krishna because he is unlimited, he is beyond the reach. And visiting holy place. So sometimes when people visit holy place, they just visit it to take bath in the holy rivers and then go and see the deities and then they are back. That's not the purpose. That's not how you visit holy places. Visiting your holy place means that you associate with the devotees, the exalted devotees at that holy place. Just like when Mahatma Vidur, he is referred to as Mahatma, some Mahatma Sudurlabha. So he was visiting Haridwar, and at that time he took shelter of sage Maitreya, and then he got transcendental knowledge from sage Maitreya. So much so that he was not just able to purify himself. When he returned, he was able to purify Dhritarashtra, who was said to be not just blind physically but also spiritually. He was able to give eyes, Shastra Chakshush, right? He was able to reveal the secret of the Shastras to his elder brother, Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra also attained perfection by his mercy. So that's the importance of devotee association. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Gaya, Love Mata Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Gaya. So again, just by momentary association of a saintly person, one can attain all perfection. We have also discussed earlier the pastime where brother of Amrish Maharaj, he was a non-devotee. He was actually very much demoniac, just seeking sense gratification. And it says Narad goes and how he bestows mercy so that even such a person who was very much fallen, seeking only sense gratification, was able to attain Vaikuntha just by the mercy of devotee association, nothing else, just by that. Love Mata Sadhu Sangha, Sarvasati Haya. And that's why devotee association is very much important. Lord Krishna reveals some amazing personalities in the next two verses. And he's saying, so again, the Daityas, the Rakshasas, the various Apsaras, Gandharvas, they are able to attain perfection just because of the association of his devotees. And then he specifically calls out some devotees, just like Vritrasur. So he was fighting with Indra and he was on the side of demons. That's why he is referred to as a demon. Yet at the same time, he was a great devotee, an exalted devotee of Lord Krishna. And in this previous life, he was, I'm thinking his name, he was a king, not Chitragupta, he had a different name. And he attained, means he was able to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead after he learned the lesson that this material world is a place of misery and seeking desires separate from the desires from Lord Shri Krishna will only result in misery. And then he took birth because of a curse he got from Mother Parvati, who was with Lord Shiva, right, at that time. So he took birth as a demon, but he was an exalted devotee. And he fought with Indra, and he, meditating on Lord Shri Krishna at the last moment of his life, at the moment of death, he was able to go back home, back to Godhead. Bali Maharaj, he worshipped Lord Vamandev. And even though it was revealed that Lord Vamandev is Narayana and Vishnu, he has come to take away everything that Bali Maharaj had. Bali Maharaj was, his tolerance has been glorified by Lord Vamandev, that he is such a magnanimous soul. So he attains even greater kingdom than the heavenly planets. Sutala is even more opulent than the heavenly planets. And he won over Lord Vamandev so that Lord Vamandev became the doorkeeper of Bali Maharaj is again at Sutala planet. Banasur was able to attain perfection by the association. Banasur was the eldest son of Bali Maharaj, and he was able to attain perfection by the mercy of Lord Shiva. Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. Lord Shiva was the topmost Vaishnava. Mayadanav, again, Mayadanav had many occasions. He had occasions where he got mercy of Lord Shiva, he got protection from Lord Krishna himself, and many other deities, many other devotees, including Arjun. Vibhishan. So Vibhishan had the association of devotees starting from Hanuman. Of course, in his young age, he had devotee association, the sages were there, but Hanuman met, when he was looking for Sita Mata, he met Vibhishan, and Vibhishan, he sees, is a devotee of Lord Ram. He has Tulsi in his courtyard. And Sugriva, by the mercy of Hanuman, he was able to have association of Lord Ramchandra. Hanuman, of course, by the mercy of Vivaswan, right? Vivaswan is the sun god. He was able to have mercy of Lord Krishna. Jambavan. Jambavan is again, he was born of the sweat of Lord Brahma when Lord Vishnu took the form of Hagriva. He was fighting with Madhu Ketub, and at that time, by the mercy of Lord Brahma and glorifying Lord Vishnu in this, when he killed Madhu and Ketub, he was able to get purified. And of course, Jamvati is one of the prime 8 queens of Lord Vasudev. Gajendra, who was in his previous birth King Indradumna, he was able to attain perfection because of devotee association. Jayadayu, by serving Lord Sri Ram, he was able to attain perfection. And so many, again, the Kubja's name is there, again, the gopis of Vrindavan, so it's actually now going higher and higher. Kubja in her previous birth was Shurpanakha. So sometimes people get shocked when they hear that Shurpanakha, who wanted to marry Lord Ramchandra and later was directed toward Lakshmana and saying that she cannot marry Lord Ramchandra, and Lakshmana said, you don't want to be second with the second best, you want to be, you want to settle with the best, number one. She attacked Sita Mata, and that's why Lakshmana, he disfigured her, cut off her nose and ears. When she went to Ravan and she glorified as how beautiful Ram is, Ravan misunderstood that to be the narration of the beauty of Sita Mata. And that's why he made this plan to abduct Sita. And of course, she did mention in her saying that you are the one who should enjoy Sita, she is so beautiful. And so afterwards, when Ravan went with Marichi to kidnap Sita Mata, Shurpanakha wasn't staying there. She went off, and underwater she performed great austerities and meditation, and she was always meditating on the beautiful form of Lord Ramchandra. And because of that, in her next birth, she was able to take birth in Mathura as Kubja, and her body was disfigured in 3 places. So again, that's a big narration on its own, how she was disfigured and how she was able to attain perfection. And the gopis in Vrindavan, they were, some of the gopis are eternal associates of Lord Shri Krishna. Some were the rishis at Dandakaranya forest during Lord Ramchandra's appearance. And Ramchandra said that I am one Pativrata, so Patnivrata. So again, he would have only one wife, Sita Mata. And so he gave them the opportunity to be born as gopis in Vrindavan, and they were able to attain perfection. The wives of the Brahmanas, again in 10th Canto, we have heard at length. So here Lord Krishna is glorifying that all these people, they did not do extensive analytical study of this world. They did not perform, when they were looking at Lord Shri Krishna, they just loved him. They were constantly, attracted by Lord Shri Krishna. Krishna also means all attractive. And Nirvana actually means that one destroys all these materialistic propensities and, gives us the supreme goal of life, which is eternal happiness, eternally be in love with him. And that is a choice we have to make. We have to make this choice. So again, when Lord is saying that time is relative, he's actually revealing to Uddhav that time is relative, that even the Rasa dance time, Lord Krishna expanded the night, during the Sharad Purnima, that night was expanded to be as long as the night of Lord Brahma. Yet it appeared momentary to the gopis. It passed very fast because they were in this loving exchange. And sometimes we see then when we are having this good time, right? Journey, if is carried out very happily, then it passes very fast. Yeah? Yet at the same time, if we are feeling morose, we are unhappy, then even a small moment, seems to pass very slowly. And that is the relative nature. Time we measure, using clocks and watches, is tracked very well. But our perception, to us it appears longer or slower based on our perception. And so, when we are on this spiritual journey, we should be in this happy mood, in this loving mood, a mood of gratitude, a mood of, glorifying Lord Shri Krishna and his devotees and remembering his supreme pastimes of loving exchanges and reciprocation to the devotees' love that he has, especially the gopis. They were always in Smaran, Leela Smaran. So their topmost meditation is Leela Smaran, means remembering the pastimes, Leelas, the various pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. And so they were constantly in this mode. Yet at the same time when Akrura took him away, even the regular nights were appearing like the day of Brahma, which means the day and night duration of Lord Brahma. So it was so unbearable, and they were suffering through this heavy distress, mental distress, because they were in separation. While Lord Krishna, he did that only to increase their love for him. So again, that there is also a meaning behind it. And Lord Krishna, he did come back, and again, in every universe, when in the material universe when Lord manifests, he's having this loving exchange again showing. And in the spiritual world, he is eternally having this loving exchange with his devotees, the devotees at Vrindavan, the gopis, the Gopa boys, Mother Yashoda, Nand Baba, and so forth. And it is very important for us to understand that everyone around us is actually Anand Bhaya Abhyasat, is also looking just like us, seeking happiness. And to be able to understand this, one of the lessons that I have learned from my instructing spiritual master, sitting right here, is that it is better to be kind than being right. So again I keep hearing this instruction, which is very good. So I was reading a story, and this was a very touching story, where a man and wife, once again, in today's times, sometimes, both husband and wife, both of them have to work to be able to sustain and maintain the family, right? These are some trying times. So after a hard day of work, when the wife, after the day of work, she cooked for the family, and she prepared the dinner. The husband and the son, they came and joined her, and as a family, it's said that family that eats together stays together. And we say that families that prays together stays together on their journey to back home, back to Godhead, to Lord Krishna's land, Krishna Loka, Goloka. So here, the son, he observed one thing, that the mother, she had burned the toast completely. Yet at the same time, he saw that the father, he nicely applied the spread on the toast, and he, asked his son, how was your day? He asked his wife, how was your day, with a smiling mood. And he took every bite of that toast, relishing it, as if relishing it. And, it was a very nice, happy time at the dinner table. Even though when he was handed over a ball of rice, the ball was very hot. He did not complain to it. He did not say, oh, this is so hot, right? He just, immediately placed it cautiously, put a mat under it and made sure that, let everyone know that, hey, this is very hot, you be careful. He was not, jumpy, like we say sometimes. And he was being very kind. And when the son, is taken at night to his bed, and the father is tucking him in his bed, the son says, so my dear father, when your hand was burned, you did not shout, and I saw you eating that burnt toast. So the father, he simply smiled and he said that a little burnt toast does not hurt anyone. And the boy understood. And the next lessons were, but the harsh words do, right? And sometimes they burn you for life. So no weapons can pierce you as harsh words can. And it is very important for us to realize that our every interaction should be focused on loving exchanges, because just like His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj says that we should have an interaction with so much love and with so much humility and tolerance, and with this mood of in a friendly attitude, as if the success of our spiritual life depends on this interaction, every single interaction. That's how we should be interacting. So this is a great lesson that we learn here. And even the devotees, means we always remind each other that we should not even commit janaprad. Forget about Vaishnava Prad. Vaishnava Prad is mad elephant disease. But even janaprad should not be. Even to general populace, we should not be offensive. We should be very careful in our dealings. And Srila Prabhupada, in his many writings, in his lectures as well as in his letters, have revealed that devotees have to be perfect gentlemen and ladies. And we should understand what that means in essence. Not just appear, nicely dressed, but also our behavior. Sometimes I hear one of the devotees, sometimes they're driven with so many aspects. And I was asking, why are you forcing people to give for charity? And the person said, sometimes you have to twist the arm to make them realize what is right. Yet at the same time, the person he has twisted the arm of, I met him afterwards and I said, so how did you feel about that interaction? Actually, I did not ask him. The person was revealing it to me. The person revealed to me, he twisted my arm, so I only gave him a penny versus the $1 that I was ready to give. So sometimes we may be turning someone away even from serving Lord Shri Krishna the way they want to serve. Rather is we should make our interactions so loving that everyone would want to feel on their own. Because this love is not forced love. It is not driven by fear. It is not just driven by duty. Rather, it is spontaneous love. And that spontaneous love we can only attain when this is performed in a pleasurable mode in devotee association with Ishta Goshti. So the only conversations and only talks and only discussions should be of Lord Shri Krishna. How do we serve Lord Shri Krishna better? Yes. But not try to say, I'm serving in this way, so you have to serve this way. No. We should just show by our own example, just like Jananda Prabhu, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He was such a sublime, such a wonderful attitude. He would interact with everyone, that everyone was so much attracted to him that they were ready to do whatever he asked for. Right? He was a taxi driver. And sometimes he would be repairing his car, and then as he sees somebody walking by, he would say, can you pass me such and such instrument so I can fix this? And he would ask in such a gentle manner that the person would stop whatever they were doing, and he would really engage and help him. And that is the mood of a devotee. So again, we should learn from his life, from his example, as how we should be dealing with others. And he, even though he was facing leukemia, blood cancer, and he had all kind of bodily situations full with painful state, but he was in constant bliss, and he was giving, even the money that he was getting for his medical treatment was given to Srila Prabhupada for the printing of books. Now that is an example, paramount example. And when he left his body, at that time the deities, the garland fell off, and Srila Prabhupada said he has gone back home, back to Godhead, because Lord Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardana. He understands the essence of in our heart, right? The real thoughts that prevail in our heart, the mood, how we serve him. And it's Bhakta Vatsala. He keeps his devotees very close to his heart. So such wonderful devotees are able to easily go back home, and not just they go back home, they set examples, they pave the path that others can follow and to be able to go back home. So that is the most important. And Uddhav says that, O Lord of Master of all mystic powers, I have heard your words, but there is still some doubt in my heart. That's not going away. So, please, my mind is bewildered. Please, relieve me of this, doubt. So various doubts haunt us, just like Arjun was being haunted by so many doubts when we read Bhagavad Gita. So similarly, Uddhav, who is a pure devotee of Lord Shri Krishna, he is revealing that he has doubts, that he wants Lord. So Lord Krishna at this time understands that Uddhav is not able to simply understand in this manner, so because he's a great scholar, he's disciple of Brihaspati, he wants to understand at a level. Even though he already is a pure devotee of mine, he wants to, he's worshipping by his intelligence. So he's asking me in this way. So now then Lord gives example of the kindling wood, as how, the two woods, and we discussed this in previous class. Just like the spiritual master is the lower wood, the disciple is the rubbing wood on the top, and then there is this shaving of wood in between that catches, as soon as there is a spark, it catches fire, and you put, you further put right kind of ingredients like air, blow to spark that fire, bring that spark into the fire form, and put ghee and suitable things to further enhance this fire, to set it, as the fire blazes. You put ghee and other clarified butter and similar things. So similarly, Lord says that I am become manifest in the sound vibration of the Vedas. So again, Lord appears in his holy name, as his holy name. So again, he is non-different. Abhinatvam nam namino. So Lord is non-different from his name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So sometimes we ask that, is this mantra in Hindi or it's in English, or it's in Sanskrit? Well, actually, it is in Sanskrit, but basically you are calling out directly to the Lordship, to Mother Radha and to Lord Shri Krishna, to please engage me in your service. And yet at the same time, it is transcendental sound vibration. So we have to understand from that perspective. Then Lord even describes this with respect to the material creation perspective to satisfy the mind of Uddhav. And it comes down to basically the simple principle, Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman. So again, the living force is supplying all demands of all living entities. So Lord is one, but at the same time he is supplying to the necessities of unlimited living entities. So that is his causeless mercy as affectionate Father. And similarly, the invocation mantra of Ishopanishad also reveals this secret. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamivavashishyate. And then the next verse, the first verse is also very important. Ishavasyam. Again, but let's stay with the invocation mantra, where it's revealed that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is perfect and he is complete. And because he is completely perfect, so even the translation by Srila Prabhupada is very poetic. All emanations from him, such as the phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Hare Krishna. So even we living entities are referred to as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are part, so right, he is unlimited, we are limited. Srila Prabhupada gives so many examples, like if Lord is the ocean, we are just a drop of the ocean. So qualitatively same from Lord Shri Krishna, but quantitatively different. That's Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, right? Qualitatively same, quantitatively different. Yet, even though we are part, we are parcel. So we are a complete unit. We are fully a unit that is capable of serving Lord Shri Krishna. So it's not that we need something else to be able to serve Lord Shri Krishna. Lord Krishna says that one who reads Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, is worshipping me by his intelligence. Yet at the same time, that intelligence is, when we worship Lord, that is for our purification. So it is to purify our very existence. That is the mood of a devotee. That's how we should be studying the Shastras. Not to show that we are great scholars, not to show that we can recite the mantras very well, not to show that we, this is all about us. Sometimes people, they get bewildered. So there is Sevak, Seva and Sevaya. Sevak is the servant, Seva is the service, and Sevaya is the personality or the deity who is being served, the master. Right? So many times people think that when we are reading or when we are performing various activities, it is all about us. No, it is not about us. It is actually about Master. Vasudeva Sarvam iti sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. But it's not about Mahatma, it is about Lord Vasudeva. So when one understands that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and it is, with love we should be serving Him, then it's not about us, it's about Him. He is in the center. So that has to be properly understood. And that is how the scriptures should be read. They should be studied. They should be heard with this mood. And then we will derive the ultimate benediction. We will be able to attain the love of Godhead. And in the association of devotees. Lord even gives the example of the banyan tree. So in chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita, the banyan tree description is given. And how with the weapon of detachment, it said here, sharpened by detachment with the weapon of knowledge, when we practice it. So, the axe, having the axe is not important, that's knowledge, but then cutting the tree. Now cutting the tree also is very important because the roots are there, those are unlimited desires. The two types of seeds are the pious and impious activities. There are three trunks, the three modes of material nature, the various three layers of covering. That's again the vial, the bones and the pus and all that stuff that's making up this body is there. The 11 branches that go on are this, 5 working senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses and the mind. The twigs are the Vedic hymns. There are 2 birds on this tree. One bird is constantly, tasting 2 types of fruits, happiness and distress. Because we are Anand Bhava, so we are always seeking happiness. But when we are engaging with sense objects, seeking sense gratification, then we are constantly unhappy. Lord Krishna reveals in this verse that people who are seeking happiness through sense gratification are unhappy. And people who are seeking to serve Him with awe and reverence, even renouncing. What is true renunciation? When we engage everything in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna, that's Yukta Vairagya. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha, in relationship with Lord Shri Krishna. So everything has this relationship with Lord Shri Krishna in this material and spiritual world. We have to understand what that relationship is and engage it in the manner that automatically Lord Krishna is pleased. That is the mood, not bend someone's arm to please Lord Shri Krishna, because that may just be driving people away. So we have to be very careful in our approach. And also, here Lord Krishna is revealing that the swan-like man and renounced order of life, they enjoy the other fruits. So this is the fruit of happiness because they are renouncing the sense gratification, rather they are engaging it. So that is, it's automatically renunciation when you have something and you engage it in serving Lord Shri Krishna. And that is the true purpose of every single entity, and that's the real mindset of an awakened person. So one who is not sleeping, not dreaming, is able to experience the supreme truth, who is appearing in the various forms in the Vedic literature. So that has been revealed in this chapter. So here in this chapter we hear the glories of the association of devotees, pure devotees of Lord Shri Krishna, and how in the association of devotees, the 6 principles of them, devotee association is paramount, right? And by taking to devotee association, we can attain perfection in this very life. And what is perfection? To attain love of Godhead and to be engaged in devotional service spontaneously. All our mood should be to always serve Lord Shri Krishna with mind, body and words. Those are the three ways we can perform actions. Constantly meditating on His name, form, activities and glories and pastimes. Constantly singing His glories with our tongue, hearing from our ears, looking at the beautiful form of the deities, engaging all our senses like Ambarish Maharaj did in serving the deities, glorifying the deities and touching and serving the Vaishnavas. So again, Nam Ruchi, Vaishnava Seva, Jiva Daya. These are the 6 pillars of devotional life that we should always focus in these times. And thus engaged, we can attain perfection in the association of devotees, right? It's a great journey, and journey is always amazing when it is done in the company of loving associates, loving personalities, in the association of devotees, and time passes very fast so that we can quickly go back home, back to Godhead. So those are the amazing lessons that were covered in this chapter today. Please join us for in Srimad Bhagavatam, and I understand that Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Lord Shri Krishna also. So you can actually worship Srimad Bhagavatam just like you worship deities. Yet at the same time, when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, when you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, when you try to meditate on Lord's pastimes, you can attain perfection in this very life. And it is said, Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he reveals, Nectar of Devotion is revealed, that there are 5 most potent forms of devotional services that when one engages in, then one can attain, even a neophyte can experience the love of Godhead. And what are these 5? Deity worship. Just like I said, even Srimad Bhagavatam can be a deity, right? Then, second one is, what are the 5 ones? First one is deity worship. Second one is reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Third one is chanting of the holy name. Fourth is residing at a dham. And fifth one is, go ahead. Serving the devotees, devotee association. So the most important one today that we learn is devotee association. So anytime you have opportunity to have sadhu sangha, devotee association, please take that opportunity and engage in even hearing is devotional service, and also taking instructions, and it's also part of the sadhu sangha, right? So please make use of your time and make your life sublime.
Let's do some Harinam.
So please join us in doing some more Harinam. Hare Krishna.
New York.
Okay. Hare Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai,
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Premanande,
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.